right in the heart of a silver bullet.
Yeah. I think they plotting on man. Don't wipe their feet when they enter the L.A.R. I feel a cold stare.
Oh, what radicalized you? What radicalized you? I can tell you the exact moment that something clicked in my brain, and I have not seen the world the same since. When I was a senior in high school, that's when we first learned about Trayvon Martin. I was the exact same age that Trayvon Martin was when he was killed. And I think about this all the time because at the time, I was stressed out about my future and thinking about what my next move was going to be. And then I was learning about this kid who was the same age as me, whose future was taken from him. And it just weighed really heavy on my heart because in what world does a kid just walk home from the convenience store and not come home? And I was really upset about this, but at the time I was waiting tables at this diner. And when I arrived to work, people were debating this. And I remember being so confused because this kid was at the convenience store and walking home when this adult approached him, questioned him, and killed him. And so I spent this whole shift being like, what's the debate? And it took hours for it to finally click that, holy shit, these people are racist. And I know this shows my ignorance and I should have figured this out before I was 17, but that really was the moment where it clicked for me. But then when I got off of work, I went to go visit family. And when I arrived, they had the TV on and they were talking about Trayvon Martin. And so this adult whom I loved and trusted turned around and asked me my thoughts. And I really saw this as an opportunity to vent. And so I started off by saying, you know, this is really sad. This kid had his whole life ahead of him, to which I was immediately cut off. And when they cut me off, they immediately said, oh, well, don't let them paint this picture of him where he's a good kid because in his autopsy, they found trace amounts of THC in his system. And I remember being floored by this because this is an adult who I love and I trust and who I believe loves me. But in that moment, had you killed me, you would have also found THC in my system. So what's the difference? I immediately figured out what the difference was. And when I say at that moment, I have never seen the world the same, never seen it the same. I think about Trayvon Martin all the time. I'm in my early 30s. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my life. And here's this kid who should also be 30 who just never got the opportunity. And so yesterday when I log online and I see news outlets saying Nolan Wells was drinking the night of his disappearance, I've seen this tactic before. There is nothing that you can tell me that is going to justify the murder of Nolan Wells. I don't care if he was drinking. There is no reason for Nolan Wells not to be alive today. And shame on any news outlet that reported on that like it was news, because him drinking is no reason for the state of Mississippi to still have his throat. We will not be gaslit into thinking that any of this was justified, and there will continue to be pressure until justice is served because Nolan Wells and his family deserve that.
What's going on? Dealing with racial inconsistency. It's what this young lady is what I'm talking about from this young lady, and you see it from time to time. Like there's a clip that I didn't use. It's an 80-year-old white guy who got pulled over by the police in one of those, you know, they thought he was black by his car and his tints. And then when he rolled the window down, why didn't you tell me you were white? Move on. And then the guy's like, once they found out I was white, it was good because they came to him all hostile because they didn't see him because of the tint. And he was shook, and I'm sitting there like, you're 80, bro. Stop acting brand new. That's just my opinion, right? This young lady is like, yo, wait a minute. You know, she was 17 when she figured it out. Like, oh, this has nothing to do with right or wrong per se. This has everything to do with race. And racism makes wrong right and right wrong. And when she said, you know, yo, I would have had trace amounts of basically marijuana in my system if you'd have killed me. And it made me think about how for years, it's probably still going on. I just stopped paying attention. For years, they've talked about young black men and black men being drug dealers. At the same time, they talking about young white men being serious drug users on college campuses. the top 10 party schools, the top 25 party schools. Some of those schools are Ivy League, so, but they're all PWIs, when it comes to drinking and alcoholism and heavy drug use. And that concept of, oh, it's not wrong if it's wrong if they sell drugs and do drugs, but it's not wrong if we sell drugs and do drugs, because it's it's known, it's a national story. It was a national story every year. You know, thus, the concepts you see the older you get in society. Like she said, she's 30, and she's like, yo, she's seeing the same play getting ran. And shout out to Nolan Wells' family, because they brought like two other families up with them to the press conference. I think it's two, about similar stories that happened to their kids. And I realized you see it, you know, you've seen it for years predominantly with white women, thus, they get the whole mud shark thing, because sometimes they deal with non-white men and sometimes they don't. They just go, oh, okay, this is what's going on, which is ironic because, and I'll say it this way, partially I believe because um, there were a lot of white women who were teachers who were basically taking advantage of children, of teenagers. A lot of times when y'all saw the teacher, the teacher and the student relationship, a lot of times it was a white female teacher and predominantly black, maybe Hispanic, or like say Polynesian students. And generally nothing would happen to her. And you start going, oh, and then that's part of that's, in my opinion, part of their introduction to it. It's like, oh, because when we do this, it's not wrong, but if they do that, that's wrong. And it's like, yeah, part of that dynamic, but the whole racial dynamic, even in school, where you've seen young white boys assault girls physically and sexually, and they just wipe their hands of, hey man, it's not a big deal. So you've seen you've seen their introduction to the inconsistencies of the system, even when it comes to them. And I think that's an issue. Some people benefit from it, some people like disassociate from it, and you wind up with this mixed bag of, now I'm dealing with the inconsistency, because now I've noticed, this has nothing to do with principle. This has nothing to do with right or wrong. This has everything to do with the cover up. And you wind up seeing people like kind of, and sometimes upset, sometimes broken. Even the situation with Nancy Grace and Brandon Tatum, when she's like, I've seen that look before, where she's looking like, like, you just gonna ignore this? Like, you gonna, oh, you're not suspicious of this? And it's like, yeah, because to me, it's like she's seeing a black man do what she's accustomed to white America doing. And it's unsettling, because it's like, oh man, we've been doing this so long that people, you know, people are mimicking it. And we don't talk about it to a degree of, let's just, people might talk about, you guys and your music, you're violent. And it's like, and I'm going to say this, part of the inconsistency. Generally, if you look at white TV shows and white movies nowadays, and for decades, you can't just say nowadays, they're notorious for killing people and just going home. Clean that up. We're out of here. and robbing people and going home, assaulting people and going home. So just like you would make the case that the black people are violent because of the music and the shows, we're looking at it like, and y'all are violent for this. Y'all are more violent for the same way because there's a disconnect. Like even in the shows and movies with music, not so much with the music anymore. I would say that from what I've listened to, but in a general sense, there was always if you do this, you're gonna pay for this. This ain't gonna be a free ride. You're gonna suffer because of this. That was generally the message in what was going on. That's generally not the message when you change the race. It's like, kill 20 people? Let's go get some coffee. That's the thing. And I say that to say what winds up happening in these situations is you're caught because you're seeing people go, man, I cannot believe that, so many people are like this. And I think that's part of the inconsistency of the guilt, because you see it even with the all of the MAGA people who are Trump, 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 and Trump is great, and Trump is awesome, and Trump is beautiful, and Trump is smart, and Trump is legit. And all those people are like, I can't believe that I cannot believe that I voted for this. I can't. This is not what I thought was going to happen. It's like, how? Like, I saw the thing one with Sean Strickland. And he says, he's a great guy, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a split screen of him talking recently. And he's like, if you go to a rally, you can see how Hitler happened. And it's like, oh, it's like, but everybody else saw this. And I think sometimes I think you see white people breaking out of the matrix of racism, white supremacy, and the inconsistency of it because they've been sometimes affected by it, or they can see their self in the same situation and go, oh, what was that? Patrice O'Neill when he was when he was alive and he did his special Elephant in the Room, and he was talking to he said he's talking to the black lady in the crowd. He was like, what is the white lady that they got killed? He was like, Natalie Holloway. That's right, Natalie Holloway. He said, and what was the lady that the same guy killed in like Panama or something? What's her? And the whole crowd, and he's like, exactly. You don't know because she ain't white. And he's like, I gave a joke to you. I'm trying to tell you. You see, when I brought up the white girl, you was Natalie Holloway, that angel. And he's like, who's that lady? I don't know, some broke bitch from whatever. So, and you see it, I've seen it in stories where, I've seen fathers in court after an unjust ruling when his daughter got assaulted by a white guy. And he's like, and the father's like, nah, I see what black people talking about. Now I see it. I've seen the situations where, how can I say this? Where like when people saw the January 6th thing and people like, wait, y'all not, wait. You had Blue Lives Matter flags up last year and y'all beating up cops? You couldn't reconcile it. You better not kneel for the anthem because of police brutality and you beating up cops? And y'all like, it's okay. I mean, they cops. It's like, okay. See, you have this stuff keeps the very thing that white America says is wrong on Monday is the very thing that white America will do on Wednesday and say it's not wrong. And then you have people like trying to rectify. Same way you had the Hispanics, when they talk about, the I will vote for Donald Trump thing. But more importantly, oh man, they just getting rid of the bad people. We're good. And it's like, he did it. That y'all went through this before. No, but it's gonna be good. And it's like, oh my God. And then, ICE. And the irony of ICE is a lot of Hispanics joined ICE to get rid of their own people. And it's like, and then people started to go, oh my fucking God. This is, oh no. Like, what do we, and you can't reconcile the hypocrisy. You can't deal with it. And you start to go, okay, well, who am I surrounding myself with? And it's like, yeah, you've been raised by, surrounded by, taught by, nurtured by people who, and all else, and the best way I can say it, we're just white supremacists, and you were so accustomed to it. You've been in it so long, you couldn't see it until you took a step back and was like, but that's wrong. But why do we think that don't look right? But why would you think that's right? And it's like, oh, because they got a clan mind, and a lot of us do. It's like, yeah, it is what it is. But I'm gonna leave it at that, man. Catch y'all on the next one. Tell me what you think. Peace.